Have you ever eaten something that was supposed to help you control your cravings, like a protein brownie, a sugar-free dessert, or a low-calorie crunchy snack, but instead it made you want to eat more? Most people think cravings are about willpower, discipline, emotions, but there's actually a whole field of research that shows something really interesting. Our brain uses flavor as information, and when that information gets distorted by the food industry, our appetite system can get really confused. So today I'm going to explain to you why the science of flavor is so important and help you understand it in a way that will show you why certain foods can actually make your cravings stronger instead of weaker. This episode isn't about telling you what you can or can't eat. We're not creating any strict rules. It's just about helping you understand how your brain works so that food starts to make more sense again and you're empowered with the facts. The first thing you need to know is that the 4 most common ingredients in the American food system are water, sugar, salt, and natural flavor. Now, why is this important? Who cares about natural flavors? We've all heard about sugar and salt before. Water's water, of course. But the problem is it wasn't always this way. The 4 ingredients we're supposed to consume the most have typically not been those 4. Maybe salt. Salt is an essential nutrient, but this is something that's relatively new, especially natural flavorings. Natural flavorings have only been around in the last 50-ish years, and so it's an area that most people are uneducated about and really confused about. And we need to understand flavorings and their impact on our cravings to understand how our body functions while we're eating them. A lot of people will tell me things like, well, I overeat because the food tastes good, right? We wouldn't overeat if the food didn't taste good. But the question we need to be asking ourselves is, why does our food taste good? Not just from this lens of, oh, we get this hit of dopamine and it's addictive, but why do we get a hit of dopamine? Why is this food addictive? Why does it feel like it hijacks our brain when things like broccoli and potatoes doesn't do that to us? So let's start by understanding how flavor works in our brain and body. Flavor is actually a prediction system. Most people think flavor is just about the taste, but flavor is actually much more complicated than that. There's a whole field of research that's come up called neurogastronomy, which studies how the brain experiences flavor. And what scientists have discovered is that flavor is really a combination of many different signals. Your brain is combining taste from your tongue, smell from your nose, texture, temperature, and your past experiences with food. All of these things combine together to create what we experience as flavor. You might have noticed how when you're really sick, you're not able to taste the food as much because you don't have that sense of smell. It's a really big thing that's important for how we perceive food. So it's not just about how it tastes, but the whole sensory experience. And food manufacturers know this. They know that when you open a can of Pringles and you feel that like blast of air that comes with this big scent, that is doing something to create your cravings. But what's really fascinating here is the reason your brain experiences flavors as pleasurable is because it uses flavor to predict what nutrients are about to arrive in your body. So flavor is actually this learning system. Your brain is constantly asking, what happened the last time I taste something like this? Maybe you had a really gross experience. You ate rotten ceviche and you threw it up later that day. Your brain's gonna remember that. I had this experience once. And that makes it so you don't want to eat it again. That's your brain's way of saying this is something that could be poisonous or dangerous to me, so I'm not going to eat it. But we also have positive experiences around food. So think about the first time you ate an orange. You had vitamin C arrive in your gut, which created this gut-brain connection of, oh, this is where vitamin C comes from. And this is my favorite example because if you look at accounts of the sailors who would get scurvy when they sailed across the ocean, they reported having really strong fruit and vegetable cravings because they were deficient in vitamin C. They really wanted something citrusy. They didn't even know that citrus had vitamin C. They didn't know that vitamins were a thing, but they had this intuitive knowledge that they were craving something that was missing in their body. And then when they started carrying lime and lemon juice on board, those cravings diminished because they were getting those vitamins that they needed. So your brain has learned that flavor means nutrition, and there is this reliable relationship. And this is how it worked for most of human history. Certain flavors reliably meant certain nutrients. A sweet taste usually meant carbohydrates and energy. Fatty meant a high energy dense food. Savory or umami taste meant protein. So over time, your brain started to to learn these patterns and craving the things you need when you need them. So when you taste something sweet, your brain predicts, sugar is about to enter our bloodstream. When we taste savory, our brain predicts protein. And then your body starts to prepare for that food. Your hormones start shifting, your digestive enzymes start releasing, and your metabolism prepares to process the incoming nutrients. This is an incredibly sophisticated process. It's something I'm dialing down here for you, but your body is basically running on predictive models of food all day long. So your brain might already be turning here and thinking, wait a second, maybe if I'm eating something like a protein brownie that doesn't have any sugar in it, our brain is releasing all of these hormones and enzymes help us digest sugar, but we don't really need those enzymes. We need enzymes to digest protein, and that's not what's happening. So that's also why a lot of people can get digestive upset from things like protein powder. Another really interesting piece of research is that the brain's reward system actually starts activating before the food is even digested. The moment that something tastes good, your brain releases dopamine, even though that we haven't gotten the nutrition from it yet. Dopamine is often called the pleasure chemical, but it's really more accurate to think of it as a motivation signal. It's the brain saying, ooh, this was important, we should do that again. This is how we learn to seek out foods. And historically, this worked really well because flavor intensity usually matched nutrient density. The foods that tasted the richest or sweetest usually contained the most valuable nutrients. Think of things like wild fruits, herbs, spices, and animal foods that had really intense flavors because they contained really intense real nutrients. So your brain learned a very simple rule. Stronger flavor equals more nutrition. And for thousands of years, that rule worked. It worked well. We didn't struggle with food and obesity the way that we do today. But modern food science has changed this. Today, we can create extremely strong food flavors that don't have any nutrition present. They're literally just the flavor molecules slotting into our tongue without having anything valuable to us. So we think of things like artificial flavors. This is something like blue raspberry. Blue raspberry flavoring has a fun flavor for our mouth, but it doesn't have any blue raspberries because blue raspberries aren't a thing in nature. But even if you think about something like natural flavors, which if you look on your packages, I bet you'll find a lot of natural flavors. Natural flavors come from the natural world, but they don't even have to be that same food. So for example, strawberry flavor can have tree bark and leaves in it. It's still a natural flavor, but it's not coming from strawberries, nor does it have any sort of strawberry nutrition. Even if a strawberry natural flavor was coming from the strawberry itself, it still doesn't contain the actual nutrients that a full strawberry does. So all of these things, all these added flavoring extracts, isolated compounds, flavor enhancers, these ingredients can produce very powerful taste signals, but the nutrients that historically match those signals aren't necessarily there. So your brain is tasting something intensely sweet, savory, or rich and thinks, oh, I'm getting a lot of nutrients that are coming in right now. But if the nutrients don't arrive the way the brain expects, the system keeps searching. You keep wanting to go back for more to try to get that nutrition. And that's when people start to feel like they want more food instead of less. Not because you're lacking willpower, but because your brain is trying to resolve a signal that didn't match the outcome. So let's bring it back to some of these like diety foods that have been produced today and why they can make cravings worse. This is something that confuses a lot of people. Diet foods, so things like sugar-free jello, protein bars, low-carb tortillas, flavored protein powders, artificially sweetened desserts, diet drinks. We've all been told, various things about fake sugars and the impact that they have on our body. But what matters more than, are these fake sugars causing cancer or not? I mean, that's important, but that's not really the main problem of why we're overeating on them, is these foods are creating very intense flavor signals. I tried this clear whey protein powder the other day. I just had a little taste of it to see what it was like. And the way that the flavoring tasted, it was so overpowering. I felt like I couldn't even try another sip of it. But that very intense signal that tastes really sweet, really creamy, really dessert-like doesn't match historically what nutrients would come in from a food like that. So we taste something really sweet, like this really sweet watermelon protein drink, but the nutrients of a carb aren't in that protein drink, right? There's no carbs in it. There's no sugar. And if something tastes extremely sweet but contains no sugar, the brain's prediction system doesn't get the outcome it expected. Over time, this can make the brain's learning system confused. Your body expected one thing, but something else happened. And when our learning system is getting inconsistent signals, it hyper focuses on it to try to figure it out and understand it more, and our appetite regulation becomes less predictable. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean these foods are evil or killing you, but it does explain why a lot of people notice that eating highly flavored diet foods can sometimes make your cravings worse instead of better. Now let's compare that with whole foods. Whole foods send consistent signals to your body that match up with the nutrition. A potato tastes like a potato and contains potato nutrients. An egg tastes like an egg and contains egg nutrients. Fruit Fruit tastes sweet because it actually contains natural sugar. So when flavor and nutrition match consistently, the brain can learn more accurate signaling patterns. And that allows your body to regulate your appetite much more smoothly. You stop when you're full, you don't obsess over food as much, and the cravings tend to settle down. This is why I focus on food that sends clear signals. When I work with people who are struggling with binge eating, we're not focusing on rules or restriction, but instead we're looking at how do we give your brain that clear information again? Because when your brain gets that clear information, it becomes much easier to trust your hunger and fullness signals. If right now you feel like, I don't know when I'm hungry, I don't know when I'm full, it just like is a big blur throughout the day, or you think I do know when I'm hungry and I'm full, but I just feel like I never listen to it, it could be that eating a large amount of these foods is having an impact on those signaling. So for some people, it means reducing those foods, and for other people, it might just mean paying attention to which foods help you feel more satiated and calmer around food. One of the biggest takeaways I want you to get from this episode is this: cravings are not a sign that you lack discipline. Your brain is simply responding to different signals and interpretation of data. But when that data is messed up by food companies and these signals are confusing, your body is doing what any healthy body would do, which is increase your cravings to have more, to try to get that nutrition. But when these signals start to become clearer and the data is accurate, again, a potato tastes like a potato and has potato nutrients, your body can start regulating itself again. And this is why so many people find when they shift towards real foods, their cravings naturally calm down. Not because they forced themselves to do this, but because their biology became easier to regulate. It's not the only way and the only solution to stop binge eating, but this is one important aspect that I think not enough people talk about. And understanding the science of flavor can help you feel empowered, because it shows that the struggle that so many people have had with food over these years isn't just a personal failure that came about to them, it's how our brains are interacting with the modern food environment. And when you start paying attention to how ultra-processed foods affect your appetite, you can begin to make choices that help your brain feel calmer and more regulated. If this episode helped you understand your cravings a little bit better, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might also need it. This information really is not talked about enough. And if you want to know specifically what foods should I eat and what foods should I avoid in order to stop binge eating in the easiest, fastest way possible, I actually give you a mini ebook with the exact guidelines you need to know on how to choose the right foods without flavorings inside of my signature Confident Eater program. So all of those details of my program are in the show notes below too.